Thanks for taking the time to listen to our latest content here on the Blood Red channel. Guy here with just a quick message. Do you want the very latest Liverpool FC news directly into your inbox? Well, then sign up to our daily LFC newsletter, which will bring you the breaking news and big events from around Anfield. To subscribe, just go to bit.ly/LFC newsletter. That's bit.ly/LFC newsletter, or click the link in the description of this podcast and pop in your email address. It really is that simple. That link once more, bit.ly/LFC newsletter. Well, thanks for your time, and on with the podcast.
This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello and welcome to the Debrief from the Blood Red channel as we react to the Community Shield game at Wembley. Liverpool drawing 1-1 with Arsenal before going down 5-4 on penalties. I'm Guy Clarke. Alongside me, Matt Addison, as we get set to react to all of the game's big talking points, including, of course, Takumi Minamino's first goal for Liverpool. Matt, how are you keeping?
Yeah, not so bad, thanks. It was not the most entertaining of games. I think obviously both teams sort of looked a little bit tired towards the end of the game, and I suppose it was nice to see a penalty shootout at the end, even if it didn't go Liverpool's way.
Yeah, we'll get on to the penalty shootout. Of course, that's sort of the formality of deciding who actually takes the Shield home. Back in the day, of course, it would have been shared. But for Liverpool, what did you make of the game as sort of a broad spectacle? Of course, going behind to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's goal, I think it was 12 minutes that goal went in. It wasn't the best of starts for Liverpool.
No, it wasn't. I think it was the 12th minute last season as well, where Manchester City opened the scoring in the game as well. So, yeah, the 12th minute of the Community Shield, not the best for Liverpool of late. But look, I thought across the game, Liverpool, well, even before the goal, I thought Liverpool were largely on top. I thought they were doing okay. They're not at their scintillating best, of course, but we expect that at this stage of pre-season. So, yeah, it was a game of a little bit of frustration. Liverpool got themselves into good positions. Andy Robertson put some fantastic balls into the box, and players just weren't quite in the right position at the right time to finish them. But look, I think at the end of the day, it's another friendly on the list for Jurgen Klopp, really. I know, obviously, some people will disagree with sort of how important that is, but you know, for me, this was as much about fitness as anything else. And look, Liverpool will begin the season and hope to improve on those performances, but this was certainly a step up in performance from what we've seen in the two friendlies.
Yeah, a couple of names really stand out from the game itself. One defender and one substitute who came on in Takumi Minamino. Let's talk about Minamino first, and we'll get on to the other shortly and where sort of it leaves Liverpool 2 weeks from the start of the new Premier League season. But Minamino on as a substitute not only got a goal in the game, but he really did have a tangible difference once he did come onto the pitch.
Yeah, it was really interesting, the position that he played, obviously out on the left. Liverpool seemingly moving towards more of a 4-2-3-1 type formation, which we haven't really seen without Xherdan Shaqiri. But yeah, obviously Minamino up there with a lot of quality around him. I think that's always important. You need those opportunities where you've got Salah and Mane to play off, and Firmino as well. So yeah, it was really, really promising from him. His overall game, I thought, was really good. He came into the play and made a real difference. He almost grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck and knew that Liverpool needed a goal. That was why he was coming onto the pitch. And Liverpool seemingly seemed to trust him a little bit more than in previous matches, I think. They seemed to give him the ball and knew what he was going to do. There was some good work, some good patterns that they played with their passes in that final third once he came on. And of course, the goal, excellently taken. And you know, you've got to wonder whether that is going to be a huge moment for him. I think we were all waiting for one sort of signal that might change things for him in his Liverpool career. He's very quiet. He's very shy. You might just need that little bit of a confidence injection. And look, scoring a goal like that, brilliantly taken, brilliantly finished in a game which, okay, wasn't the most important, but it was against, you know, a decent team, certainly an upcoming team, and certainly a team that is better now than they were 12 months ago. And yeah, I think for him, it can only be a good thing that his Liverpool goal drought, if you want to call it that, is over now.
Did we maybe also see a hint to what Jurgen Klopp might be thinking for this coming season in terms of tactical ideas as well, Matt? Once Minamino came on, he didn't come on for Roberto Firmino or any of the other forward players. He did come in, played a bit deeper to begin with, and then really did join the forward three in advanced positions. And we saw all through last season, really, the formation didn't change. The year before, of course, 4-2-3-1 was used a fair bit, but there was a change in system once Minamino came on.
Yeah, I think Liverpool are going to have to adapt, obviously. They're there to be shot out. They're the Premier League champions now. You need different ways of playing in different systems, and that is something that Minamino can bring you. He can play, obviously, out on the left as he did today. He can play through the middle. He can play in midfield if necessary. So, yeah, I think it does give you that extra option. I wonder, if this was the first game of the season, would Jurgen Klopp have taken a risk and done something like that? I'm not too sure. But, given the sort of game, given the opportunity, it wasn't, as I say, the most important thing for Liverpool to get the result today. So it was a good chance to have a little bit of an experiment, if you like. And it's certainly, I think, given Liverpool some food for thought. There's not been a huge amount of pre-season this year for them to try different things out, but that certainly seems like something that we might see. I don't think we'd have seen it if Liverpool had gone in front in the game or were even level in the game, to be honest. I think it was more a case of just putting an extra attacker on the pitch to just try and get themselves back into the match. And that's exactly what they did. Obviously, as we say, he came on, did really well. And, for Liverpool going forward, they'll hope not to be a goal down with 20 or so minutes to go too often. But I suppose it's just proven that they can get themselves back level if that is the case.
Before we move on then, was it a bit frustrating Liverpool didn't get the second push on and score? Because it did evidently look as though Arsenal were beginning to wilt and tire. They did, of course, make a flurry of late substitutions in the game, which sort of did stem that. But there was a good 5-10 minute period where Arsenal really did seem on the ropes and Liverpool couldn't quite sort of just get themselves over the line and push through and get a second goal.
Yeah, Arsenal looked really tired, didn't they? After that goal went in, you did think that Liverpool could have pushed on and got another goal. Even before that, to be honest, I think Liverpool got plenty of chances to put the ball in the box, but didn't quite get it right, didn't quite have that final pass. And, Minamino helped. Naby Keita, I thought, as well, really, really helped with that. Just to sort of make that extra pass, create that extra bit of movement and make sure that you're in the right position at the right time. So, look, it's one of those appearances where the result was always secondary to the performance almost. It wasn't quite perfect, but as I say, it's a step up, certainly, on what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. And I suppose the main disappointment now, not only have Liverpool lost this game, but there's now a couple of weeks with international break and players jetting off to different destinations. It just sort of disrupts that sort of increased level of performance game on game that we like to see at this sort of time of year. So, yeah, I think as much as anything, the frustration will be that, next season doesn't begin next week. Liverpool have to wait a little bit longer. But I think Jurgen Klopp will be happy enough with the signs that he saw there today because, as I say, progress has been certainly made over the last couple of weeks after that camp in Austria.
Yeah, certainly. Well, let's get on to another couple of individual performances then. And we should really touch on Nico Williams. A lot of people getting in touch with us about his showing today. And whether it fairly or unfairly, a lot of people singling him out for the responsibility, I suppose, for allowing Aubameyang to nip inside as he so often likes to do and putting Arsenal ahead in the game.
Yeah, I think it's pretty harsh to blame him exclusively on that. There was a couple of moments where we saw he wasn't absolutely perfectly on it defensively, but I think the goal in particular was a little bit harsh to blame him for that. Gini Wijnaldum should have been over there, should have been giving him a hand, one or two other players as well. I think, when you play on that side, we've seen, obviously, when Trent Alexander-Arnold came through, his defensive abilities weren't always perfect. I don't think Liverpool's system almost helps in a way when you've got somebody as good as Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, by far and away the best player, the biggest threat that Arsenal have. And Mohamed Salah doesn't tend to do too much tracking back beyond the halfway line. He tends to be there quite rightly for the counter-attacks and things like that. So, look, I think Nico was a little bit exposed at times. I think it's only natural that when you're a young player coming through on a pitch as big as Wembley as well, I think, we are going to see one or two things like that. But, for me, it was a steep learning curve rather than, anything negative. I think, he'll only get better and better. As I say, we've seen Trent Alexander-Arnold in a similar position in a few games, but that can be coached into him. I think Liverpool did try to give him as much protection as possible from Aubameyang, but just on that one particular occasion, and that is all it takes with a player as good as Aubameyang, just one opportunity, bang, goal, and Arsenal are in front. So, look, I think Nico Williams did okay today. It wasn't the best we've ever seen him, but look, it's not a massive concern, I don't think. I think Liverpool, in most matches, would be able to use him and not get caught out in that way.
Does it show just how how elite Trent Alexander-Arnold is, even if people do say deficiencies in his game may be defensively, that we saw Andy Robertson on the other side put in so many crosses today, caused so much trouble down that side that Nico Williams wasn't really able to affect the game in either defensive or offensive manner, in which, of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold would do. And Liverpool will surely be hoping that he's fit for the game with Leeds United in 2 weeks' time. We do understand that he was close to selection for this one, but wasn't risked.
Yeah, Trent Alexander-Arnold named in the England squad, so you have to assume that Liverpool have passed him fit for those matches. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But as I say, Nico Williams, I think, did okay today. But of course, I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is one of, if not the best right backs in the world. So of course, you'd rather have him available. You'd rather have him playing, and I'm sure he will be back in time for that Leeds game. There was some speculation this morning that he might actually have played today. Obviously, in the end, didn't even make the bench. But look, we'll see what happens going into next season. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold on the team sheet. In those other games, I think Liverpool have got not necessarily a carbon copy, but certainly someone who is heading in the right direction, plays in a very similar style, and that is really important. We've seen different players. We've seen Jordan Henderson in there. We've seen James Milner in there. They don't offer the same sort of threat as what Nico Williams does. So, yeah, look, long term, Nico Williams is not going to be playing against somebody as good as Aubameyang week in, week out. I think we're going to see a different performance from him and a better performance from him against, slightly different opposition in more familiar surroundings as well, because I'm pretty sure that'll be the first time that he would have started a game for Liverpool at Wembley.
Yeah, well, let's then talk on one final individual whose missed penalty it was in the end that did hand the initiative to Arsenal. He was brought on effectively to take a penalty, and that being Rhian Brewster, of course. We spoke about him in midweek, how he deserved a chance and maybe could have even been pushing for a start in this game, but it's not gone the way he would have wanted.
No, not at all. I think he was about to come on, actually, when Curtis Jones came on. It was a last-minute decision to sort of swap those two earlier in that game because Liverpool had just scored and they wanted a little bit more control. So I think it would have been a just reward, really, for him to have come on a little bit earlier and had a few more minutes on the pitch. I'm sure he'll be disappointed, obviously, with the penalty, but look, those things happen in football. I'm sure the players will sort of rally around him and make sure he keeps his head up, because we know how good a finisher he is. As he was taking that penalty, he seemed to take an age to take that run up and shoot, and maybe there was a few nerves. I think it's totally understandable. It's just one of those things. I think the way I would look at it is it's fantastic that Jurgen Klopp and obviously the player himself wanted Rhian Brewster to be on there and taking that penalty. So the fact that he had the confidence to step up and in front of far more senior players, in front of not necessarily a big crowd in the stadium, but certainly a big crowd watching on through the television, for him to step up at that age and feel confident enough to put the ball in the back of the net, that would have been a big thing. So it's unfortunate for him, but look, it doesn't change anything for me. He should still be at Liverpool next season. He certainly shouldn't be sold on a permanent deal. If he does go, it would be on a loan deal. So, look, as I say, it doesn't change too much for me. I think my opinion of him is still very, very high, and Liverpool and Liverpool fans are more than aware of the ability that he has. 11 in 22 for Swansea last season. That was very much an exception to the rule.
Yeah, well, 2 weeks out then from the first Premier League game of the season. Of course, the game with Anfield been moved back to a 5:30 kickoff. Then Chelsea, Arsenal, of course, to come in the third week of the season before Villa and Everton. So those are the first 5 games for Liverpool. Just 2 of those at Anfield, the game against Leeds United and the game against Arsenal as well. Where do you think Liverpool are standing right now as we head towards the start of the Premier League defence? Matt, is there work to do, and should fans in any way be alarmed?
Alarmed, certainly not. I think there is obviously still work to be done. 2 weeks away from the season beginning, that's only natural. Normally Liverpool would still, if you think back to last year when the Community Shield was, I think they maybe even had 2 friendlies still to play at this point. A week before that match against Manchester City, certainly one of those to play. So, look, there's still work to be done. But as I said before, the international break, players going off, coronavirus concerns with certain players picking up illnesses and things like that. We've seen that across Europe. It's just so uncertain at the moment in terms of going into that new season. So it's really hard to predict what the first few games will be like for any team, not just Liverpool. But But you'd imagine that Jurgen Klopp will be relaxed about the defeat today. I'm sure there will be some knee-jerk reactions. There'll be shouts of Santiago and things like that off the back of this result. But at the end of the day, Liverpool drew with what is a fairly decent Arsenal team, a team that, on another day, Liverpool could quite easily have won. If Mohamed Salah had been a yard further in front on one or two of those crosses from Andy Robertson, we could be sat here talking about a completely different game. So, look, on the day, Liverpool didn't quite get the result, but whether Liverpool pick up the same number of points as they did last season going into next season, or whether they get a few less, they're going to be right up there for the Premier League title once more. I think it will be closer. We know Manchester City are going to be improved. Certainly they will be if they manage to sign Lionel Messi. We'll see how that goes. But it just goes to show really how far away, yet so close we are to the season in one respect. So, yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, but there's a lot of work to be done for all 20 of those Premier League teams. And you'd imagine that Liverpool will feel confident in themselves to make a good start to the season.
Yeah, last point then before we go, and on those run of games that Liverpool do have at the start of the new Premier League season, is it right for fans to be in any way concerned, and is it fair for them to be somewhat nervy given Liverpool's start to the season does look tricky on paper? Of course, Leeds United, albeit a promoted side, will come with plenty of confidence having won the Championship last season. Then you've got the likes of Chelsea and Arsenal, and then 2 away games going to Aston Villa and Everton. Not 2 easy places to go. And we know that Liverpool last season, of course, set off like a house on fire, and that they probably need to do so this season. But whether they're quite up to that at the moment, some fans might just be questioning that.
Yeah, I suppose the only thing I would say to that is probably that a lot of Liverpool fans won't have watched any other team in pre-season. They will have only seen Liverpool. So I suppose a lot of other Premier League teams might be looking similarly rusty or similarly tired at this point in the season anyway. So, look, I think for Liverpool, there's always concerns. There's always things that you can improve upon. And even in matches that Liverpool won comfortably last year, there was always things that you would pick up on and say, maybe that could have been better, that could have been better. And look, I think Liverpool will be there or thereabouts, as I say. An important thing is to start the season well. As you say, we know the importance of momentum and things like that. We certainly saw that last season. Liverpool got ahead, stayed ahead, and ultimately won by an absolute canter. So, yeah, the first few games, you're absolutely right, are going to be really, really important. But just because Liverpool have maybe looked a little bit tired or they haven't quite finished off those chances today, that's not to say that they won't do so against Leeds. We saw last season in pre-season, there was a lot of concerns over certain players. I can't remember which match it was specifically, but there was a lot of concerns over Fabinho. Absolutely brilliant last season from start to finish. He had an excellent season. So, look, there's always things in pre-season until the actual Premier League campaign begins. We never quite know what level Liverpool will be at, particularly this season, as I say, with such a messed up schedule. But Liverpool are in a far better position than any of the other teams. If you think about the end of last season going into the next, if you asked anybody at this moment in time who are the favourites to win the Premier League title, I think most people would probably suggest it was Liverpool.
Yeah, probably would. Certainly agree with you on that point there, Matt. Well, that's all from us here on the debrief. Do stick with the Blood Red channel. Jurgen Klopp's post-match press conference will be arriving on the channel. And then don't forget, on Monday afternoon, we will be back with the full Blood Red podcast show looking into the penalty defeat at Wembley that has seen Liverpool lose out on the Community Shield, just like they did last season. But hey, it didn't harm Jurgen Klopp's side back then. From myself, Guy Clarke, and Matt Addison alongside me, though, thanks for tuning in and joining us here on the Blood Red YouTube channel. Until next time, it's bye for now.